Hello, and welcome to November's edition of Spotlight in Education. Today I'm very fortunate to have with me three of our high school social studies teachers, Mr. Alan Brodman, Mrs. Barbara Maier, and Mrs. Joyce Lentz. And they're here to share with us a very important program that we're also very proud of, and that is our Institute for Political and Legal Education, more commonly known as IPLE. Our program last year produced a wonderful team of students who came in third in the nation in the We the People contest in Washington, D.C. Can you share with our audience the curriculum, the process that brings our students to that level, and what your individual roles are in that process?
Sure. I'm the teacher of the class itself. The requirement of the competition, which is run by the Center for Civic Education based in California, is that all students participate in a class. This is not to be the best 25 or so students from your school. This is supposed to be students who are committed to learning this material. The material is about our governing system, how it works, as well as the focus on civic participation, that students themselves get involved in our system. The way the class runs is that we participate, or the students participate in learning from 6 units that are part of their text. And the units vary in certain topics, as you'll hear the students themselves talk about in a video portion that we'll be seeing later. Those students are then split up into these units. They respond to a series of questions that are sent out by the competition. The competition, there are 3 questions that are provided that the students must research. They have 4 minutes of presentation time to begin the process, and then 6 minutes of follow-up questions from a set of judges. This is at the state competition, which is held usually in February. Prior to that, the students are learning all the material in those 6 units, and they begin to work among themselves to prepare for the state competition itself.
My involvement in Joyce's comes a little bit later in the year. Actually, the students do start picking our brains early on as they come across individual situations or problems. But as the state competition approaches, Joyce and I will go into Alan's class and we will talk to the kids. We will work through issues with them. We critique their speeches. We question them. As the competition arrives, we're something of mother hens also, and we take care of their emotional needs, I think. But we also bring different background, because where Alan's expertise is in legal issues, Joyce is an expert in American history, and my major area is European history. So we find that the 3 disciplines merge very nicely for this particular subject. In addition to that, we find that the students themselves are very well versed for a variety of reasons. One of those is the oral assessment program that the students start in 5th grade. So by the time they become seniors, they are used to standing up in front of students and teachers and answering questions and giving speeches, and they're very comfortable with that. And in addition to that, we have a number of history subjects and affiliated subjects that broaden their basis of information. So we collectively try to pull all that together for the students.
Great.
And we found that at both the state level and the national level, one of the things the judges are looking for are a number of contemporary applications to the subject matter. And again, the district just offers so many opportunities to our students. From the 9th grade, when some of our students are involved in the Rutgers Model Congress, many of them repeat once they're at the high school, returning to the Rutgers Model Congress. They're involved in mock trial. We have a variety of Model United Nations simulations that we attend throughout the course of the year. Sometimes we're going to, well, we always go to Rutgers. We go to Harvard. We've gone to the Ivy League. Many years, our culminating activity is the National High School Model UN that's held in New York, with the opening and closing ceremonies being held at the actual United Nations itself. And then we've been extremely fortunate that once our students passed through the state level of competition and were selected to be the representatives for the state of New Jersey and Washington, that professors from Rutgers University presented a one-day workshop for our students where they were able to go in and ask the questions that they might have to better help them understand this wealth of information they were being asked to synthesize and analyze.
That's great. You know, for years I've heard so much about the program, and as you know, last spring was my first trip to Washington with you, and being there and seeing it was just unbelievable. So now I'd like to show a tape so that our viewers can see for themselves the process the students go through and the excitement that they get out of this activity.
Hi, my name is Arwa Gunja. I'm part of the IPLE class here in East Brunswick High School, which participates in the annual We the People competition.
But when we found out that we made top 10, we were all jumping around and screaming because we knew that we finally had the chance to become, one of the best teams in the nation.
It was an incredibly nerve-wracking experience, and the boys were really excited to hear who had made the top 10. They were jumping around Murphy, they were jumping around Brodman, they were jumping up and down screaming New Jersey.
We came in third place in the nation, which I was ecstatic with. I thought it was incredible.
The competition is basically formatted where they set up 6 units. Each unit covers a different topic, stressing the importance of the Constitution. Unit 1 focuses mainly on philosophy. Units 2, 3, 4, and 5 solely on the Constitution. And Unit 6 applies those concepts to modern-day America and politics.
In order to qualify for the national competition, we had to first win the state competition, which we did, allowing us to qualify for the nationals. And at the actual competition, each team starts off with 10 minutes of actual competing time. The first 4 minutes are a prepared statement made by each of the units, whereas the last 6 minutes are based off of spontaneous questions that are thought of by the panel of 3 judges. At the end of each competition, the judges score you based on a number of aspects: the follow-ups, your fluency in responses, teamwork, things like that. And after the first 2 days, these results are tabulated, and the 10 teams with the highest score move on to the last day on Capitol Hill.
It was very exciting going to Trenton. It's always a highlight of the year to watch these students compete. It's more exciting even when they win. And we took the state, which sent us to Washington, D.C. 50 states in a very, very rigorous competition. The competitions were held Saturday and Sunday to bring it down to the 10 finalists who would then compete on Monday.
Well, at the competition, 48 states actually competed, and at the ceremony, all of those states were there, plus parents and our advisors. There were definitely thousands of people in this mall, all waiting for the announcement as to who were the top 10 teams and who would compete tomorrow.
We finished the second day of the competition, and we go back to our hotel, we changed, and then we went to the mall where they were going to announce who made the top 10. And they had completely closed the mall, and we had a dance down at the food court.
And we waited for them to announce who the top 10 teams were. And it was really nerve-wracking because you wanted to hear your name so badly, but you were afraid they wouldn't call it. We're New Jersey, and there's a lot of states that start with the word new, so we kept on being afraid that they would call New York instead of New Jersey.
As most of you know, that 2 days worth of scores are total, and that determines which 10 teams go on tomorrow in the finals.
When it came to be 9 o'clock and we were to find out who was announced, we stood there around the stage, all holding hands, and the second team that was announced, the second poster they held up was New Jersey.
The team from New Jersey!
And we found out that we made the top 10, and we realized that everything that we had worked for was coming to be realized, and we were going to be competing on Monday, so we were all really psyched about that.
As the teacher, my role has a number of aspects. Initially, I would say I'm there to go over the basic material that the students need to learn. Beyond that, as we begin to process the questions themselves, I'm there to serve both as a resource and, I guess the way to call it, as a taskmaster. I'm there to make sure that the students stay on focus and prepare the responses to the questions.
Actually, it starts down the 8th grade, where students get a good foundation of the Constitution, specifically with the Bill of Rights, which we spend about 6 weeks talking about the different amendments that would pertain to student rights, particularly in the junior high and high school. So we look at those rights and see how they're quite different and how they're protected under the Constitution. Then in the high school, we have 2 programs called IPLE, Institute for Political and Legal Education. IPLE 1 gives them a basic foundation of the concepts starting from early constitutional law, going back as far as John Locke and some of the early philosophers of constitutional law. And then we look at some of the byproducts of that in our own Constitution.
In class, we spend some time both learning the material, that is the Constitution, its underpinnings, the creation of the Constitution itself, all the way through the aspects of the Bill of Rights. At that point, in class, we would spend time having the students present as they would at the competition itself, a 4-minute presentation with 6 minutes of follow-up questions.
This year it was an extremely, very personal group of students, and I found this group an extremely, very, very cooperative group of kids to work with.
Testifying on Capitol Hill was mind-boggling, it was breathtaking, and it was overwhelming because the judges were sitting so high in the room, and we're sitting all the way down here, so they're really imposing on us.
Testifying on Capitol Hill was a bit different than testifying on day 1 and 2 in the hotel conference rooms. In the conference rooms, the judges and we were on the same floor, but in Capitol Hill, the judges actually sat up higher, and basically we were responding, looking up to them, just like a Capitol Hill hearing. This did create a bit of a more imposing feeling in the room because the distance between us and the judges was greater, and because there was that increased aura of awe and respect that comes with the room and having the judges looking down upon us.
Well, you go as the advisor having, I guess, let out that long sigh of relief that you've done what you can to prepare the students for the competition. On the other hand, you now begin to worry because there's nothing you can do. As a teacher, you must sit there and watch and listen, and as has been noted previously to others, to beam them responses if you can.
After our competition, we went to the hotel, and we all kind of had this nice banquet. We sat down and ate dinner, and they had a lot of speeches. But we were all waiting for the final moments when they would announce who the 10 through 4 teams were, and then who the top 3 teams were.
So we sat around our 3 tables, one big chain of hands, and we waited. And there was also New York in the final 10. So when New York was placed 10 through 4. So when we heard the new in New York, we were all really afraid it was us. And it was a great sigh of relief when we finally found out that it was New York and not New Jersey.
So we were all really nervous, and we were hoping that we actually wouldn't hear your name when they called the teams, because if you hear your name, you know you're not number 1, 2, or 3. And we survived, I guess, the first 7 teams that were called.
And then once they had announced the last number 4, the last team, we realized that we were in the top 3, which was one of our objectives. So we all got really excited, and then around 2 minutes later we found out that we were number 3, which was a little bit bittersweet because we had all wanted 1, but it was still a really great accomplishment. We realized that to be one of the top 3 teams in the nation and the number 1 public school is an amazing feat.
The experience taught us a lot. It not only was a very rewarding and very self-fulfilling process, but it also educated us greatly on civics in America and on the importance of teamwork.
I learned a lot more about the Constitution than I ever imagined I would have. I also learned how to work with people and in some ways to swallow my pride, because like anyone else, I'm very fiercely protective of my work, and so I would hand in work to my group to take a look at, and at times it would just be completely X'd out and I'd have to start again. And you realize that you have to work your team, you have to do your part, and just be the best you can. Don't take things like it personally, because everyone's striving to be the best they can possibly be.
They learn so much. They learn beyond the basic material about our Constitution and our system of government and their role within it, both as students and then later as adults. They learn so many wonderful skills, from research to presentation skills. I think most interestingly, they learn how to work together as a group. Many of these students don't perform on teams here at our school. For them, it's always been about their individual actions. But here, it must be the group that comes forward. If the group doesn't do well, their individual presentation won't matter as much. And I think there's a wonderful skill set that a lot of our students learn about working together and with others, that it goes on beyond, I should say, even the intellectual.
This program is something that I would definitely recommend to other high school students. It teaches you a great deal about civics, about the Constitution, and forces you to practice your public speaking skills, practice the aspects of teamwork, and to involve yourselves within the political community and teach others about civics.
You learn a lot about government, you learn a lot about the Constitution. More importantly, you learn about yourself, you learn about your peers, and you learn. I've made numerous friends from my group and from my unit and from everything at this competition. It's been a very, very rewarding experience for me.
We thought this program was especially fitting to show in November, when so many of our citizens are encouraged to vote in the local, state, and national elections. And certainly being national winners is wonderful, but being good citizens is a lifelong skill that we want all our students to achieve. Explain and talk to our audience about how the program develops good citizens and what our students have said to you after graduating and coming back and visiting you again.
Well, I guess part of it, they have that old saying that the proof is in the pudding, if you will. And in this case, we have seen, in one case, we've had a former student who went on to become a lawyer in the Washington, D.C. area and has since been a judge at the national competition, which was quite a thrill for our students those years that he was involved. We've also had a number of our students who've been involved in the program who went on to become aides in Representative Rush Holt's office. I don't think I've ever experienced a better or a bigger thrill than having them lead us on the tour of the Capitol when we had the teams there to compete in the national competition. Right now we have another gentleman who is on staff on Capitol Hill for the California congressman at this time. And one of the other true thrills, I think, is also seeing that when we have reached the national competition level, we have a number of students who are currently enrolled in the colleges and universities around the Washington, D.C. area who have come back to help us prepare the current team. And so in a lot of ways, it is a family. It is a tradition that is continuing to live on.
I don't think the aspect of the family can be stressed too much, because in the IPLE classes that they have, either IPLE 1 or IPLE 2, we talk about civic virtue and helping one another and the importance of that. And it really comes together in this program amazingly well. Sean made reference in the video to the fact that he was a member of a team, and he really felt like he was a member of a team. And we watch these students, and the transformation during the course of a year is absolutely phenomenal, because they are very protective of their own intellectual accomplishments, I guess, and in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they start looking to each other increasingly, and they are very, very supportive. They're very critical of one another, but themselves as a group, but they're also very, very supportive. And it's not just the individual unit, but it's the whole class. And so we will see one unit of students critiquing another, quizzing them, helping them to rewrite things. And they really do have a tremendous sense of the group spirit, and it's very contagious. So I mean, everybody there is totally involved in that. And another aspect that certainly they take so many things from this program that we hear from the students. They come back, they talk to us about their experiences in school. And of course, this is a great program to help them with their own coursework, their research skills, their fluency, their analytical skills. All of those things are wonderful. But we also have students coming back who are taking government courses on the college level, and they feel like true experts in the classroom because they recognize that they know the depth of their understanding is so much greater than many of their peers, that it is really wonderful. And in addition to that, a lot of them will get involved on their own college campuses in Model UN programs or Model Congress programs. And we go over to Rutgers, to the Rutgers Model Congress, and sure enough, there are IPLE students who are chairing committee sessions and really becoming the leaders of those organizations. So this carries over to everything that they do.
Yeah, and I think to reiterate or follow up on that point, it's important. It's not just even the idea of within their communities. There are a number of our students who have every intention of becoming politicians or government. There are also some of our students who have no intention when they begin that process of doing that at all. This is an intellectual endeavor for them. And the interesting thing is seeing how some of these people evolve and move on. And how their focus has changed and how this has had an impact on them. We have a student who's involved at a college, heavily involved in the politics of that college as a freshman, getting elected to positions of authority within the school. And it's that election, that concept of participation, that I think is one of the key aspects that students get out of this. The importance of their civic participation is one of those life skills that they learn from this and really grasp onto. We've had students, even while at the high school last year, we've had a number of students who are heavily involved, both politically in terms of representing parties or working with parties, but also working on issues. We had a student who was very involved in support for the school and for the budget. All right, and it's these pieces, they learn that themselves from listening. It's not like we sit there and going, go out and go do this. This is something they pick up themselves. That participation is also seen, and the students' joy in this, okay, is seen by the judges. I ran into one of the judges this past summer at a conference, and when I introduced myself, he says, "Oh, you're from the New Jersey team." He says, "They were wonderful." And I happened to mention to the judge, I said, you know, to a certain extent, you scared them a little with your questions. And he says, no, he says, they were wonderful. He says, they took our questions and had a conversation with us. And that's something I reiterate with them as well. This is a conversation that you are having with these judges, okay? And that piece is something that's very important for them. It's a skill, the ability to sit there and have a conversation with a person who's fairly impressive. We're talking about college, Ivy League professors. We're talking about Supreme Court justices from different states. And these students are having a discussion about topics with them. And because it's within that context of the competition, they forget that those are adults or that those are people of great stature in front of them. And it's wonderful, and I know I speak for my two compatriots here, that in watching them do this last year, and other years, but in particular with last year's team, was just wonderful seeing that discussion. So that concept of participation, the concept and idea of students being responsible to the society as well, is a life skill that I think is one of the most important things that comes out of this process.
It's wonderful. I just really want to thank the three of you for coming here today and sharing the program with the community. But more important, I want to thank you for your passion and your commitment. It just comes through so clearly. And to see you doing that in Washington and working with the kids is phenomenal. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching Spotlight on Education.